What's up once again, Auburn family? Final tonight from Nashville. Auburn takes the win against Vanderbilt 80-65. We are here inside the LAUB town. Hopefully, everybody is having a wonderful night. We are back just to do some quick talk about this game. If you're up and you're in here, come on, say what's up to your guy, Ike Jones. When you get in here, do the necessary. Go ahead and share the video at the War Report out there on social media. And if you don't mind, and while you're rewatching or whatever, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Great win tonight for Auburn. This one wasn't really ever in doubt. There was a little bit of, Vandy did their thing early in the game where they made it close early, but this ultimately was an Auburn victory, really from, well, I won't say wire to wire because there were points in time where Vanderbilt was winning this game, but another great night for the Auburn Tigers out there on the road versus Vanderbilt. Pretty easily, your player of the game tonight is going to be Jalen Williams with 21 points on 7 of 7 shooting. Perfect from everywhere, from the field, from three, from free throw. Add on another 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and you have a really monstrous night from Jay Will tonight with a couple of highlight plays, including a putback dunk and a behind-the-back assist for 3 out there. To Denver Jones. So really great night for Jay Will. Again, this one wasn't really ever in doubt. Auburn did a phenomenal job tonight. Hopefully everybody is doing really well, and appreciate you guys jumping in here with me late nights on a Wednesday night after a good Auburn victory against Vanderbilt. But again, just really solid. I mean, you got Dylan Cardwell with 12 points tonight on 4 of 7 shooting. He had some pretty electric plays. The half dunk thing, I don't even know what to call that situation where he tries to go for the dunk. 4 of 4 from the free throw line from Dylan Cardwell. The free throw shooting from this Auburn team tonight, and really on this season, has been really good. In this stretch where Auburn hasn't lost lately. Just doing a really good job from the charity stripe. Tonight is no exception to that rule. 18 of 22 from free throws tonight for 72.7%. That is a great percentage to shoot. But when you're getting nights like that from Dylan Cardwell from the free throw line, you know you're doing well. I guess the only situation that you have to worry about tonight is Janai Broom with whatever happened to his knee there at the very end of the game. Hopefully that's nothing, and he'll be okay when we get back versus Ole Miss this weekend, because they'll definitely need him in that game. But great night tonight for Auburn. Other statistical things that we can just point out here: 47% from the field, 27 to 58, 32% from 3. Not the best night from 3, 8 of 25. I think a few of those, just weren't very good shots, but not the best night from 3, but a decent night overall. But when you're shooting that well, and they actually just updated, on the game, Auburn shot 81, almost 82% from free throw. I was just looking at the second half stats there, 71%. So Auburn on the game shooting 82% from the free throw line. That is an amazing thing. Now, I talked about this in our pregame during the midweek report that Auburn needed to win the turnover battle. They actually did not. They did, but not in the way that I thought that they would. Auburn turned the ball over 10 times, Vanderbilt 11. So Auburn forced an 11 turnovers, barely winning the turnover battle, but enough, so that the statistic did hold true. But Auburn points off turnovers 11, Vanderbilt only able to get 9. This is the thing I think Auburn did really well tonight for the most part, is getting back in transition and not really letting Vanderbilt take advantage of much. Didn't let them push it out and get any fast break points. Vanderbilt only 5 fast break points on the night. Vandy actually did a really good job of getting back on defense as well. Auburn limited to just 9 fast break points tonight, but good job of taking care of the basketball. Only 10 turnovers is not bad, but only forcing 11 is really not characteristic of Auburn. But this is why I talked about the turnovers being important in this game. Now, I didn't think that the turnover margin was going to be so close, and you still get a 15-point victory, which kind of speaks to the nature of how good this team actually is. You had such a slim turnover margin. Now, it's a very low turnover game overall, but when you're shooting the ball so well, you can, and you're not turning the ball over a bunch, and you're getting quality possessions. But Vanderbilt just was not really able to ever get into an offensive rhythm tonight. They shot 38% from the floor, only 22% from three. I think that you're going to have to find a team that's going to shoot really well from three to be to combat what Auburn does defensively. You saw that run LSU was able to go on. That's another thing I talked about in the pregame as well. Like, Vandy is a team that they can get you into some scoring droughts if you get into that kind of thing, but they don't really have the shooting to just come out there and close the distance really quickly. They don't have that type of quick strike offense. So it was going to be tough for them once they got into a big deficit to try to figure out how to close the gap. So overall, really great night tonight from the Auburn Tigers. Let's get over here to the comment section, see what you guys are talking about. We'll get into a little bit more of what we observed tonight. But Stephen Bradley says Jay Williams had another good night. This is a stellar season for him. I think he's having an all SEC type of season right now. This is the Jay Will that I've wanted to see for a couple of years. He's always had the ability to do this, but he's playing with way more confidence right now. And the game looks like it's coming very easily to him. He's shooting the ball with confidence, and he's not looking lost when he gets into the lane. He's very resolute in what he wants to do with things. He understands kind of how he wants to handle defenses as they're attacking him. Love what I'm seeing from Jay Will. More props from Jay Will from Valencia saying Jay Will is balling. Joshua Jordan jumps in and says, also, didn't realize Vandy's freshman Jason played in TV show Swagger on Apple TV. Unless they said that on the thing tonight when I missed it because it was on mute for me for a while. I didn't realize that either. But I mean, good for him. I don't watch the TV show, so I wouldn't have known that. But good nugget right there. P Pass jumps in saying solid win, just a taking care of business, not pristine outside of J. Will. I mean, I agree. It wasn't, no one else really stood out as far as their play. I think it was just a lot of solid contributions. Again, you get 12 points from Dylan Cardwell, 15 from Janai Broome on 6 of 12 shooting. I think he had a really good night. Another double-double from him with 15 and 12, right? So I would say that was a pretty stellar performance with the double-double there from him. Dylan Cardwell probably was close to one. I only had 6 boards. I'd say if he had 12 points, he probably was close to a double-double. He needed 4 more boards to be able to get there. But 12.6 boards is not a bad night for him. When you get into some of the statistics, and I won't get into analytics just yet. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. But again, really solid contributions from just about everybody who touched the floor. Leo Berman hitting the 3 finally. Love to see that. But yeah, I agree. Very solid win tonight, just overall. Brad Browning was not satisfied. He says, War Damn Eagle, I actually wanted a bigger win, but a great team effort tonight, and Jay Will balled out. 15 wasn't enough for him. He wanted to put him in the dirt. 30-point up. I'm not mad at it. Let's see here. James Moore says that DJ and Jay Will sequence was amazing. Speaking of the Denver Jones assist from Jay Will, Denver Jones saves the ball, turns around, throws it back out to Jalen. Jalen drives, does like a wraparound behind the back bounce pass over back to Denver Jones in the corner. Vandy player tried to flop a little bit on that too, try to draw the charge, but and then Denver Jones knocks down the 3. I think that was like the only points Denver had the whole night, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had 3 points on the night, and he needed to knock that one down to make the highlight make sense. So good job on him of seizing the moment to do that. Tyrone Lawrence, good win in a terrible gym. Listen, man, I was going to go to this game tonight. If it hadn't been for the ice on the roads up there in Nashville, I would have been back in that gym. And it's just a weird place to play basketball. It's just a weird gym, bro. Like, I just don't understand how this is. Like, it feels like it was made for like gymnastics and not basketball. Like, maybe that's because they have their gymnastics meets in there, and like they were thinking gymnastics first. I don't know what the deal is with that gym, bro. But like, anyway, if you guys remember me talking about my trip to Vandy last year for that basketball game, I went on a very long, it just wasn't a pleasant experience for me, but yeah. Let's see here. Chris jumping in. Chris Stiff saying 10 straight. You're darn right about that. Looking to make it 11 straight as the Ole Miss Rebels. And that's going to be I think that's going to be a very emotional game for a lot of people. So looking forward to seeing kind of how they deal with the emotion of that in that game. Looking for 11 straight as they take on the Rebels, who took the L tonight to LSU. And so, maybe they're um, I didn't watch that game in any detail. I was peeking in on it, um, but maybe expose some stuff that because LSU is a team similar to Auburn that forces a lot of turnovers. Ole Miss turned the ball over quite a bit in that game. So if they're susceptible to sloppy play and turnovers, then that game is a game I like Auburn in because again, LSU and Auburn are tops in the league at forcing turnovers, and LSU turned them over quite a bit tonight. But again, LSU turns the ball over a lot, which is why that game was a lot closer than it needed to be because LSU was blowing them out at one point in time. But because they turned the ball over so much, Ole Miss was able to get back into it and make it feel a little bit more interesting than it actually was. But hopefully we will get a solid non-turnover night, whatever, from Auburn this weekend. Ephesians 2:8-9 says Cardwell is playing really good ball right now on both ends of the floor. So happy for that guy. Love what I'm seeing from Dylan Cardwell this year. He's just kind of a solid, you know, rim runner, uh, defensive back end, right? Like he's a guy that's the defensive backstop where you can just funnel stuff to him, and he's doing a much better job of defending without fouling as much. Yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Dylan Cardwell. He's more sure-handed with the ball. His rebounding is improved. He's an enforcer out there, right? So he's going to give you the hard foul every now and then, not necessarily trying to hurt anybody, but just, hey, no easy shots around this basket type of guy. So love what I'm seeing from him for sure. James Moore says, when we start hitting the three at a high clip, we'll be dangerous. We've only had 3 games over 40% and 7 over 38 this year. That's a great statistical call out there. Yeah, I think for me with Auburn in the 3-point shooting, it's really more about shot selection, right? I hate it feels like I'm bagging on him when I'm talking about young Aiden Holloway. So let's just talk about his stat line from 3 of 8 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3. And I'm pretty sure at least 2 that I can remember off the top of my head were unnecessary long shots. And then another one was a 3 he pulled up in transition and missed, right? Like he's not taking, I mean, he's taking shots that he can make, but they're not good shots. Like they're not in the flow of the offense. They're, and if he makes them, oh, great shot, no problem. But when he's missing them, it feels like, yo, man, we can get a better shot than that. And he shows that he can finish around the rim, which is another reason why I think it's a little frustrating for me to watch him take those kind of shots, because I know he can make the medium range and he can get all the way to the rim and finish amongst the trees. I just want to see him do that a little bit more and be able to show more of his repertoire so people start feeling like, okay, like right now it feels as if, okay, we're just going to back off of him because we know he wants to take this 3. So we're going to trail him and try to be, and not give him airspace on the stuff that's closer to the 3-point line, but we'll give him that 5 foot beyond the 3-point line situation. And he'll take it if you leave him open for it. And it's just like they're inviting a low percentage shot from him until he starts proving he can make them at a higher clip. I just don't like the fact that he settles, I think, sometimes for those shots. So, all right. Super chat here. Appreciate you jumping in. Cleveland Brown with the super chat says, allowing opponents to make it closer than it should be will be troublesome when it matters later on if we don't keep our foot on their neck. Just saying. I think that this is kind of just the MO of this team, unfortunately, right now. And to your point, it will probably cost them. And I said this earlier. Someone asked a question, I think in a Facts or Nah segment on a Friday, whether or not Auburn would have 5 or less losses on the season. I was like, well, that means we only lose 3 games for the remainder of the year because we've already dropped 2. And I just feel as if they're going to drop a game that they shouldn't because of this right here, which is, you're going to have a team clearly put away, and then you're going to allow them to come back, more so because you're going to have scoring droughts that happen because of bad shot selection or quick shots or things like that just are unnecessary. So I think it's they're gonna have to learn that lesson against somebody. It's probably gonna be on the road against some team that's not on the top of the conference, and people are gonna flip out about it, like, "Oh, see, I told you this team," like, and it's gonna go crazy. But I just feel like that's coming at some point in time, and it's just going to be a lesson that they have to learn. They already learned the lesson of not sleepwalking through a team that you're supposed to be on the road in App State, which is why I feel like this Vandy game went way differently. They didn't look ahead to Ole Miss. They said, "Listen, finish the food on your plate before you move on to the next thing." They did a good job of not looking past Vandy, even though the Vanderbilt record doesn't suggest that they're supposed to be in this game, and they beat them by 15. That's you. Hey, solid road win. Great job there. And then you move on and you start preparing for Vanderbilt. But it is, a cautionary tale for them. The thing I love about this team is, hey, they'll have those lulls, but then they push the lead back out and they make it a double-digit win again. So, solid win on the road tonight against a team that's very scrappy and wasn't just going to lay down for you. So I'll take this win very much. Let's see here. Steve Bradley says, "I love that pass behind his back that Jay Will made to assist in a three from the outside." Can't remember who got the shot. Well, we talked about this already. It was Denver Jones. So yeah, good shot there from Denver. Brad Browning asks, "Does anyone feel like Holloway is Wendell 2.0, shooting from the logo, feet not really set, making the shot at times but inconsistent? He's gonna be a dude before it's over." I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think. I mean, the comparisons that you made about like the very long shots and not necessarily setting his feet all the time are not inaccurate. They're not really similar players, and that I think. And this is gonna sound like I'm bagging on Wendell, but like I think that for him to be a freshman, not for him to be a freshman, just I mean, the fact that he's a freshman, and I'm about to say this, and I've said this before, I think speaks to just kind of how good his game is. He doesn't ever really feel like he's being rushed, even though he's taking distant shots that he probably shouldn't. Sometimes some ill-advised shots. Sometimes he has turnovers that are a little silly, but I think all players do. He just seems like he has a very good pace and poise about him. And sometimes I felt like Wendell Green was not that, right? And he was, junior senior guard where he was out there and it felt like people were speeding him up. I think about the SEC tournament game last year where he goes and he drives all the way down at the very end there and turns the ball over. It was one of those situations where like it felt like they were speeding his pace up, and I don't ever feel like Aiden's really out of control. Like even the bad shots he takes, they're not out of control shots. They're just, hey, I'm deciding to pull this one from 30. So at times I felt like Wendell Green would be out of control as he starts to move around out there. Aiden always seems to like really be smooth and in control of whatever he's got going on out there. So there are definitely some similarities to some of the things, but they're very different in a lot of ways. I think that Wendell actually, late game was a lot more willing to drive the basketball. Now, Aiden's not playing a lot of late game, close games at this point in time. It's more Trey Donaldson, but he's more willing to say, "All right, cool, it's not working from the outside. Let me drive and try to get to the free throw line," which, a lot of the games, in late in his career for Auburn last year, when you saw double digits from Wendell, it was because he was getting to the free throw line. Like he just understood how to be able to control the game in that way. Um, so yeah, very, very different kinds of players in a lot of different ways. So, not a terrible comparison on that point, but there's so many other points where I wouldn't compare them at all. Um, so, um, all right. Let's get back into this a little bit more and talk about some of the stuff that we saw here. From a analytical standpoint, I think there's a couple of things that if you're talking about comparatively first half to second half, where you would want to see a little bit different, right? When you look at totals for the first half, pretty even in points, 41 points in the first half, 39 in the second half, and shooting 13 of 29 in the first half, 14 of 29 in the second half. The 3-point shooting was probably the big difference, of course. 5 of 12 in the first half, 3 of 13 in the second half. So just a lot of missed 3-pointers in the second half. Only 23.1% from three in the second half of that game. So, but again, a lot of those second half threes were just not. I mean, Janai's not going to take a lot in the game, right? So, I mean, on the game in total, he took how many 3-pointers? Just took the one, but that one in the second half. I mean, he didn't draw iron on it. Um, Again, you have Aiden with a couple, like one in transition that I think was just kind of, it was unnecessary, and then another one from the logo, right? So just some bad shots there. Simo and Lior, I talked about this a little bit. Simo and Lior hit a three for us in the game on this one. It's good to see them actually knock one down. Um, and then Chad Baker-Mazar didn't shoot the ball particularly well from three. I think all of Chad's looks were pretty good looks, though. So he kind of gets into these games where it seems like he can't buy a three. Excuse me, and then he comes out the next game and he lights him up. So I expect, Chad is gonna. I think he saved his best one for coming back to the arena versus Ole Miss. I expect him to have 12 to 15 in this next game. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, the halves looked almost identical. Offensive rebounds, 7 in the first half, 7 in the second half. Defensive rebounds, 13 in the first half, 12 in the second half. Total rebounds, 20. Like that. I mean, they're mirrors of one another in how they played. But it just felt a little bit differently from a defensive standpoint at a couple of times, just because of the fouls and that nature. Like if you look at the foul distribution. 15 personal fouls in the second half of that game, only 7 in the first half, right? Like, I think that's the big difference in kind of how this game played out first half to second half is the number of times that you fouled them and sent them to the free throw line. You should, you foul a 3-point shooter out there on one of them, a couple of and ones that happened out there. That's the big difference from half to half, the 3-point shooting and the personal fouls. Turnovers, I mean, 5 in the first half, 5 in the second half. Like it literally, they were mirror images of one another. And then the other thing that you see there, 7 steals in the first half, only 2 in the second half. So defensively, I think that Auburn played worse in the second half of this game. First half, I mean, than they did in the first half, but offensively, it was pretty much the same kind of thing, except for, again, the percentage that you shot from three. But free throws, 10 of 11 first half, 8 of 11 second half. Like it's amazing the symmetry that they had in this game, first and second half, in a lot of those statistical categories. But once again, appreciate everybody jumping in here with me inside of LAUB Town, talking about Auburn getting the 15-point victory on the road versus Vanderbilt tonight. Again, Jalen Williams being your player of the game. The guy who on the stat sheet's not going to show up as he had a good game, but I really liked what he contributed to the game tonight. Trey Donaldson, man. I think that Trey Donaldson did a really good job of controlling the pace of the game. For the most part, he was good with the basketball in his hands. He made a couple, like he had one, it was a particular possession where he made a really great pass to Janai, and Janai missed the shot. We got the board. He got the ball back, and he made another really great pass. I think the other one was to Jalen. I'm not sure. And he ends up getting fouled and going to the free throw line on it. But, both of them were, really good looks from him. I liked what Trey Donaldson did tonight. Overall, he only scored 5 points on, he only took 2 shots on 1 of 2 shooting. Or, 2 of 3 shooting. So he only took 3 shots on the night. But I think he just did a really good job of just controlling the pace of the game overall. I love what he was able to contribute tonight. And this is the benefit of having 2 really solid point guards, and that each of them could be starters for your team, is that if one guy's not having a good night, you put the other one in, and hopefully he's able to have a good one. So, Jay Will playing really quality minutes. You don't really need the Chaney Johnson and Chad Baker-Mazar points that you would get every now and then, right? Same thing with, Chad didn't have a great offensive night. He did pretty well defensively. So Chad's just a solid defensive player. But Simo contributes a 3 on a night where he doesn't. Simo missing too many layups for me this year. I ain't gonna lie about that. Like I need you to make these point blank joints, my guy. But yeah, Simo, giving you a 3 tonight. So this is just it's a very balanced team that allows for one guy to have a good night, and you don't need one guy to be like that's I think that's the central difference to me between an Auburn basketball team this year and a team like Tennessee, who I think again, no disrespect to Tennessee, I do think that they're a very good basketball team and that's going to be a heck of a game. But Tennessee's offense really goes through Dalton Connect, right? If he's not having a good night, I don't know where they get scoring from. Not to say that Josiah Jordan James, really good player, he can go out there and he can give you double figures on a consistent basis. Of course, Vescovy is the eternal thorn in the side. I don't even know how they do. Still got eligibility. Seems like he's been in college for 15 years. So they've got other guys that can definitely contribute. I forget the point guard's name there, right? He's a menace. He's shooting better this season. He's always going to be really great on defense, right? So they've got other guys that contribute, but it feels as if the scoring for that team goes as Dalton Connect goes. So if you find a way to take him out of that, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if there's a team that can find a way to Zakai Ziegler. Thank you very much, Valencia. Find a way to take Dalton Connect out of the game for Tennessee, where Tennessee is able to go to generate points. Because I mean they start the essence of them is defense, right? So they're going to start it by trying to play really good defense and make sure that you can't score. But if people find a way, I mean, this kid's scoring like I don't know what he's averaging on the season, but it's got to be in the 20s. He's been dropping 30 like the last couple of games. But if you find a way to take Dalton Connect out of the game, where does Tennessee go to get buckets from on a consistent basis? I think that's going to be interesting. But unlike B Will doesn't think that that Tennessee is a very good team. They're going to find a way to choke. I actually think that they're a pretty solid basketball team this year, and they're going to be causing some problems for some folks. All right, let me get back over here into the comments section and see what you guys are talking about. Again, I appreciate everybody jumping in here with me tonight. I'll be on here for about maybe another 4 minutes, and then we'll get out of here. It's already late. See here. Philip Coleman jumps in and said, it almost feels like once they get up big, they go into practice mode and start running the stuff they have issues with in the game time feel. I mean, it's possible. So I'll say tonight, when they got into that big lead and then they started struggling a little bit, you saw Vandy switch up their defense and go to that 1-3-1 zone, which I think actually is a better zone to play against Auburn because of the high post flash. You take that away with the guy that's solidified there in the middle. But that 1-3-1 zone switch up, and then they went back into man, and they were switching the defenses up a little bit. That did throw Auburn off for a portion of the time in there. And then I do think that maybe a little bit that I don't know necessarily that the coaches are calling stuff that feels like they're doing practice stuff, but it does feel like at times, just the focus is off for the team, where they're just kind of going through the motions on some of the stuff, and they're having fun, right? Like they're passing the ball around, doing a bunch of stuff, and then, putting up. It feels as if they're almost like, man, we can do whatever out here, as opposed to just keeping, as somebody said earlier, I forgot who the comment was, and I put it up here on the screen, keeping your foot on the gas, put your foot on their neck, and really just blow them out so that you can get the reserves in there, right? Like you don't have Janai in there with under 2 minutes left. If you just go ahead and push this out to 30, you can put the reserves in there. You don't have to worry about Janai bumping his knee or whatever happened there if you just go ahead and do that, right? So you just kind of got to get into that mindset of we need to make sure that we're preserving our guys by just going ahead and handling business. So hopefully they're able to do that. Glenn Curry does not agree with the comparisons between Wendell and Aiden. He's like, they're not the same except for the number they wear. Very different teams. I mean, they're very different players, right? Like, I understood the comparative point that he was trying to make. Wasn't trying to say. I think the portion of that where it invites the disagreement is he's Wendell 2.0 or he's another version of Wendell. They have this thing in common, right? Like this is the thing I got in trouble with. We're trying to make a comparison between Brian Harsin and Coach Hugh Freeze. I wasn't saying they're the same coach. I was saying these things are similarities between the two. I didn't take the additional step of saying Brian Harsin and Coach Hugh Freeze are the same coach. But, apparently, you can't make comparisons without people jumping to that place. So Not what I well again the 2.0 portion I think invites that thought process, though I don't think that they are the same. I do understand the comparative that thing that you were making. Um, Giving a little love to Wendell, saying he had 35 in his debut overseas. Look, man, Wendell's a pro, man. He's a pro basketball player. His size is what's going to prevent him, I think, from ever being super effective in the NBA. Because listen, if Jared Harper has a problem making an NBA roster, Wendell Green's going to have a problem making an NBA roster. Jared Harper, at his size, is way more athletic than Wendell Green. They're not similar players at all. But I mean, look at what's your boy's name? Playing for the Cleveland G League affiliate. Why does my brain do this? Point guard for Auburn, that was out for the start of the season because he was like suspended for a couple of games. I don't know why my brain. I just might have like absolute brain farts every now and then, but like he's having trouble making an NBA roster. Like there's no Sharif Cooper. Thank you. Valencia is gonna be like my additional brain cells tonight. Apparently, um, I mean Sharif Cooper's having a problem making an NBA roster right now, right? Like, and Sharif Cooper, I think, is crazy with it, right? And so I think Wendell's going to have an issue trying to make a roster because he just, from a physical standpoint, I don't know, as talented as I think he is, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of NBA teams that are going to be in looking for his services. But he could hoop. Like he just flat out could play basketball. I think he kind of got a bad rap in Auburn, just because of winnable games that they didn't win, but just the composition of that team just wasn't right. I don't think to make the type of tournament run they could have. But Wendell Green can just flat out play basketball. But again, from a physical stature standpoint, he's just going to struggle if Jared Harper and Sharif Cooper struggle, who are both excellent with the ball in their hands, scores. I think Jared Harper is probably the best scorer of the three, but Sharif Cooper been lighting it. I just like those 3 point guards: Wendell Green, Sharif Cooper, Jared Harper. I don't know that any of them will ever get a shot in the NBA, but all of them are doing their thing in every single league that they're out there in. But I just, again, it's going to be hard. Wendell's going to have to just kind of, any of them, just going to have to be timing, right? Like somebody retires, gets hurt on an affiliate team, and then they pick him up on a two-way, and then he gets in and just goes crazy. And they're like, oh, we gotta. I just it just you don't see stuff like that happen a lot, right? Like the Kendrick Nunn situation that happened with the Miami Heat, right? Like you don't see those things happen as often. But I'm glad that he is getting an opportunity to professionally play basketball because he's a basketball player for sure. Let's see here. What else do we got going? Tyrone says Aiden stayed in foul trouble. Ticky tack foul calls called by the officials all game. The officiating in this game was weird because like some of the foul calls that they gave were just like how are you calling that? And then other ones I'm just like, how are you not calling that one? Like there was a situation where Chad is coming across and dude like basically just runs him over and there's a ball. I'm like, how is that not a foul? But then, they're calling this, reach-in situation. Like there was one that Aiden got underneath the basket where it looked like a tie-up and they gave him a foul call. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like y'all are or him trying to get over the top of a screen. And it's just like, yo, man, what are we doing, man? Like, and I mean, there was stuff like that going the other way as well, where there was now Janai eventually got a foul call on that sequence, but I thought he fouled the guy up top. Janai does the whole thing where the big man catches the ball out top and he'll try to reach from the opposite side, from the high side, and swipe down on the ball. Like in my opinion, he slapped the dude on the arm. He did get the foul call. And then later on in that sequence, he ends up getting a call later that I didn't think was as good a call. Like I thought that was more of a crap call, but it seemed like a makeup from them missing the call earlier. I don't know. I'm not very good officiating in my opinion, on a lot of situations tonight. But yeah, it did affect. Let's see, how many personal fouls did Aiden end up with, and he doesn't foul a lot. So, but let's see. Do you have 4 fouls tonight? Is that real? Wow. Aiden Holloway had 4 fouls. Like you don't see him in foul trouble often. So yeah. Glennis Curry jumps back in and says 12 and 16 in 15 minutes from Dylan is huge. Absolutely. He is, listen, he's the definition of maximize your minutes. Like, okay, I don't have to play a bunch of minutes. I'm just going to play effective minutes. And that's the thing, that I talked about with guys like Lior Berman, Simo. People give a lot of flack to those guys. Like, why are they getting minutes? I think Simo gives you quality minutes that don't show up on the stat sheet. He does frustratingly missing some shots in the lane, some open threes. Like, I get all of that, but the effort and energy he gives you on defense makes it where he deserves the minutes that he gets out there. He just needs to figure out. Like, for right now, Simo is actually in a place where Jay Will was last year, as far as he looks tentative and unsure of himself when he gets the ball sometimes. And I don't know what to attribute that to, but that's not the same Simo that you saw. The Chris Moore at the beginning of the season last year was playing some of the best basketball I've seen Chris Moore play. He was knocking down open shots. He was, making great shots in the lane. Like, he's attacking the rim aggressively. He was a different offense. Like, and now he just seems like he don't know what to do when he gets the ball. He's really unsure, and he's like, I don't know what to attribute that. I don't know why that is, but he's not the same kind of offensive player. Still giving you great defense, great energy, great hustle, but just a lot of jitteriness. And you saw that a little bit from Jay Will his last season, and he's overcome a lot of that. But it's almost as if like they passed it to him. He's like, all right, man, well, I'll take that jittery situation from you, and you go out there and hoop. I don't know what the deal is with it, man, but it's a little frustrating to watch, because I feel like physically and athletically he's such a good guy, but you want to see him do those things that he can do, like make layups, right? Like, you're point blank, let's just make that joint, right? So, Brad jumps in and says sometimes that second half makes you want to go watch the film. Yeah, I agree, man. It does make you want to go watch the film and see what happened. So, I appreciate that shout out to watching the film. I owe you guys some basketball film for real. And Jared jumps in and says 40 foul calls are crazy for the game. Yeah, man. Like, again, I mean, listen, let's go back to this. 22 personal fouls on Auburn in this game. Let's go to the split box. And 22 on Auburn and 18 on Vanderbilt in this game. A lot of whistles. So, I don't know. Let's see here. Max effort. Wrong one, my bad. Max effort jumps in and says Broom got hammered and no call goes on the other end, gets called on a touch. Yeah, I mean, it was very uneven in the way they were calling. And that's one of those games where it's frustrating for you as a player, because you don't really know, like, how am I supposed to play in this game? You're not officiating it in a way that makes a ton of sense. So, but fortunately, again, Auburn wins by 15, not a big deal. So you move on. Valencia jumps in and says KD was quiet shooting, but was effective except for getting those fouls. Like the game that KD had tonight, for sure. But just, again, sometimes, like on it was the one joint where he gets the fast break, and he has the spin move in the lane, and he tries to go hit kind of the reverse. He gets it blocked, and we get the putback. But it's like, that's one of those where it's like, KD, you got to give that one up, man. It's like, just every now and then you have those fast break situations where you're like, that's the old KD that wants to hold on to the ball for no reason in those situations. It's like, yo, get a ball up. If he gives it up early, then he might be able to get it back. But hey, listen, I'm not going to nitpick a 15-point win. You love to see it. Love what they got over there. Blue Chris asked for a score prediction for Ole Miss. Hey, man, we will get into that Ole Miss game when it's time. It ain't time to talk about that yet, but we will definitely get into that Ole Miss game. I am about to get up out of here and get myself I still got a lot of work to do tonight, but I'm going to definitely get out of here. I appreciate you guys jumping in with me. Before you get out of here, make sure you share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those things. We will be back at you guys. Members, tomorrow, film, basketball. I will do a basketball film review tomorrow. Hold me to that. send me a tweet and be like, "Ike, where's my basketball film?" Because I haven't done one of those for y'all yet this season, and I have the footage cut up for y'all. But we'll be back at you guys with that tomorrow, and then Faction Off Fridays coming up. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.